Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
Despite us having some really good foundations, meaning we followed checklists and things like that, it was just the inconsistency in a million areas.
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMaid. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Pipkin, and today's guest is the one and only Crystal Davidson. And you guys may be wondering, who is this delightful redheaded angel? And she is my longest employee. That is right. Crystal has worked for me for 6 whole years in July, and the business just turned 6. So she has been here since the very beginning, and I think it's going to be so interesting for you guys to hear somebody who was with me since literally running my business out of my apartment as a child. So it's going to be one heck of an episode. Crystal, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
This will be the most formal conversation we've ever had in our young lives. Nothing is serious.
Yeah. I don't know if that's vocabulary, but here we go.
Yes. So I am thinking what we should do is to start off with, where did you work before, kind of your backstory from a career perspective, to get everybody up to date on where you came before joining Serene Clean, and then how did you start at Serene Clean? Because you did not, jump into HR director, because that did not exist. So take it away.
All right. Well, I really had a history in healthcare for much of my career. I started in healthcare when I was 16 years old and worked there until I think I must have been, I don't know how old I was when I came here fully. It was 5 years ago. But I did a lot of different roles in healthcare. I primarily worked at the hospital here in town, but then I had switched to Gunderson and I was working in optometry and ophthalmology, and absolutely loved the job that I did. I mean, it was absolutely a career that I could do the rest of my life. I was very good at what I did. However, when COVID times had came around, it just really became too much politics for me, and there was just things that I didn't agree with that I wouldn't go through with, and just really made me reevaluate where I was. And at that point, I was actually already working here for over a year. I had started as a part-time cleaning technician. And when it got to the point where I was really I had made up my mind, I needed to do something different for myself and make myself happier. I had reached out to you at that point and just saying, hey, I know at some point in the future, you're going to need help and in the office, and hey, just want to put my name in that hat, if and when it comes to that time. But yeah, I mean, healthcare was great. I loved what I did, and I think about it all the time. I could still do eye exams in my sleep, I think. But it just, all the management and everything else that went along with it just wasn't for me. And I'm very happy that it wasn't, because this change really turned out to be one of the best changes that I've ever made in my entire life. And I'm very thankful that all of that happened and led me to where I am today. So.
Yeah. And I think, you bring up a good point. Is I remember, first off, I interviewed you at Revolution Coffee because I didn't have an office. We sat down at the coffee shop. You found the job listing on Indeed. I was paying $12 an hour, and it was listed just as part-time work, I believe. And so I remember you saying, I love my job. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And so I think that that's really interesting looking back of, you never know what's going to change in anybody's life. And so really I'm so happy that you started at such a part-time basis, and I couldn't even provide full-time hours, obviously, because I had opened 2 months prior to 2 or 3 months prior to meeting you. So do you remember, I'm just curious, I just know what a shit show it was for me at that time. I mean, I had nothing to offer anybody. Is there any particular reason you decided like, oh yeah, this is a good idea?
That is such a great question, because I was kind of thinking about that, leading up to this and thinking about, was there anything in particular that was like, oh yeah, I should give this a shot? And I can't remember specifically, but now looking back at it, I'm like, why did I go through with that? Because this young child was running this out of her apartment, and I was going and getting supplies out of a Rubbermaid container, like all red flags, I feel like. But yet I was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I specifically remember, I know that when we met for the interview, like we really got along, we vibed, and I was just like, at that point I was looking for something that was a supplemental income, nights, weekends kind of thing, here, there, very flexible schedule, and you were able to offer that. And so I think those things were what really enticed me. I had bartended for years, and I really didn't want to get back into that scene. It was great money, but also you just have to deal with a lot of bullshit, doing that. And I just didn't want to get back into that life. I had kind of grown and moved past that. And so I think just like the flexibility was really what I needed, because I was working full time and I was a single mom at that time. And so I needed to have that flexibility in order to have a second job. In many places you can't get that. So
no, I think so. And truly, it's like, that's why I tell people, when you can't offer anything, you need to offer flexibility. That's the only thing you can provide somebody, because you don't have any money, you have no credibility, you have nothing. And, you can be a good person and everything. But even when I think about the training or lack thereof that I gave you, I think we went to one Airbnb. Like, yeah, I think that's what we did. Like, we went to Fawn's. Yeah, Fawn's Airbnb, which was like a little place. Crystal got to see how terrifying my driving is, and I almost killed her, I'm sure. Well, she probably felt that way.
I'm honestly surprised I'm still alive today.
I am probably a terrible driver. Just so distractible, like eating plates of spaghetti or whatever.
Literally.
Yeah. So I remember but you were just so independent, and I don't know. I just I knew you could clean, because I remember then you did some move out cleans for Greta's, who's still a client, and she's owns apartment complexes. And I went and checked your move outs, your deep cleans, and it was good. And that was literally the extent of the training was.
Yeah. And I remember being so nervous at that one specific one. It was like my first one that I did. And I was like, well, I know I can clean. Like, I know what clean things look like. I'm super OCD. So I can't mess this up. But also, why am I so nervous? Like, she's gonna find something. And then he didn't find anything. And I was like, yeah, go me. But not much training was involved. But I mean, thankfully, I kind of knew what I was doing, just as an adult person who's
exactly. Rare in this day and age, it seems. And looking globally at it was Black River Falls Cleaning Services at this time, for all of you that know, we did a name change in 2020, I believe. But let's just, for ease of use, Serene Clean at that time, I was probably attempting to hire somebody new every couple weeks, honestly. So do you remember anything about that when it came to the crazy turnover? It was just, and how much did I share with you? Because I'm trying, I just felt I probably shared with you more than anybody else, even though you were so part-time. I think I just sensed that, but maybe I don't know. I can't really remember.
Yeah, well, and I know we worked quite a bit at Regal in the evenings together, and too, so that really gave us the opportunity to connect on that level as well. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of turnover at the beginning, of course, and I don't know where I was going with that.
I was just did you have any opinions on that, or do you feel that it reflected poorly on me, or did you just I guess I'm trying to get at how unprofessional did I seem?
I feel like looking back at it, there's truly it was just all probably very unprofessional. But at that time, to me, it didn't feel like it. absolutely sense that you had a good brain, and stuff, and you were doing things strategically. And I feel like I can sense people in that way and understand things from so many different perspectives. And just because, I know it in my role today, like just because I hire somebody doesn't mean they're going to work out. And is that a reflection of me? No, it's probably a reflection on that person, and so trying not to be too judgy about the things that happen in all of the turnover, because that's not always something that you can control. Sometimes yes, but a lot of times no. But there wasn't anything that I can specifically remember that was like glaringly like, holy crap, what am I doing? Why am I involved in this? Like, this is crazy. I just remember very quickly being like, this is going to turn into something, and I want to be a part of that in some way, shape, or form. And I just always felt that. I always believed that. So maybe that made me look past all of the red flags. I don't know. But it was the best. So
it did. And honestly, I remember when you reached out to me and, in hindsight, you explaining to me how everybody who knew you in your life was like, you are batshit crazy. Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing for leaving the stability, the benefits, the great things that you had going in your full-time career, your career path, to then leave and go work for a cleaning company full-time that had been in business for 1 year? Like, can you describe your thought process there, as well as what was your justification for it? And the reason I'm like needling into this so much is because people are wondering, how do you find the diamonds in the rough early on when you have nothing? And obviously, like, all of our management team were diamonds, like absolute diamonds. You know what I mean? And I got you guys also early on, relatively speaking. And it's like, how the hell did that happen, other than just sheer like gifts from God, I guess? But like,
all the stars aligned. And you're right. So literally every person in my life, I don't remember any specific person in my life that was like, oh yeah, you're making a great change. Everybody was like, what are you doing? You've put so much time and effort into be where you are in this position that you are, working full time with, all of the benefits. I had decent pay and everything. And I was 5 years into the position that I was at the time. And then once I was fed up, I was like, all right, I'm just, I believed in everything that you were doing and the goals that you wanted. And we had so many conversations about where you saw things, in the future. And I just believed in it for whatever reason. I just did. And I remember my mom didn't share her concerns with me immediately. She's always been very supportive of me and any decision that I make. But I remember after it turned out to be a great change for me, she's like, Crystal, the only time I was really ever worried about you in your life is when you made that change from Gunderson to go work at Serene Clean. And she's like, but I was wrong. And I was like, and I knew you would be, not that I knew what she was thinking at that time, but I believed in it and I knew it would be successful. And I knew that if I could be a part of it, I could make good changes too and help this be successful. But everybody was very much like, what the heck are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do what I need to do for myself. And that's the only thing I'm going on right now, because I truly believe in it. And so we're jumping in full force and doing this. But it was a little scary at first, because there was a lot of, things like I didn't really know, what I'd be doing. I mean, I kind of knew what I'd be doing, but also like just, it wasn't a normal job, and it still isn't to this day. And there wasn't, when I went to work for Gunderson, there was a clear expectations of my role and what I did from the moment I got there to the time that it ended and all of that. And I just had so many things that were available to me with Gunderson that I wasn't going to have anymore, making this switch. And I took a decent pay cut at that time as well. So that was another.
I remember that conversation of like, you sending that message and saying like, hey, just so you know, like if ever this is a thing. And I'm like, well, what are we talking financially? And you told me, and it was like, again, I Gosh, it's just crazy because that was like almost our starting wage for techs. But like at that time, I was just like, oh my gosh, it wasn't so much as it was unreasonable. But for me as brand new, I was like, can I do this? But I'm so glad that I wasn't like cheap minded in that manner of like, oh, I can't afford that. Where it's just like, looking at what in the first couple months of you coming on full time, like what that allowed the business to do and what allowed me to do, because I was literally doing all of the admin and cleaning and still working at, my old job as well. So just having somebody with such, first of all, like for those of you guys don't know Crystal, but Crystal is so fucking organized. like he is the yin to my yang when it comes to that. And I've mentioned this in previous episodes of you need to find people who complement your strengths. And so the things that are my weakness and really complement your weaknesses really is like me and Crystal, we have a lot of similar strengths, but we have very, very different strengths too. And so she really, really wrangled a lot of things, and also just in general allowed me to have some like breathing room, because I would say I was a fairly frantic person during this time. I was just losing my mind. like I was seriously losing my mind because it was just, this thing felt like it was out of control almost. Well, I guess it was really.
It was, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I remember when I first came in, and really started diving deep into like the things, I learned the basics. And I remember when I first looked at ZenMaid and I was like, how can you even tell the cleaner's schedule? And I think we had 5 employees at that time. Now I look at the schedule and I'm just like, oh yeah, whatever, but once I really started to, learn more about the back end stuff and not necessarily just like the schedule and who's going where today. And I'm just like, what do you mean you don't have any policies? What do you mean you don't have all of these things laid out? What do you mean there's zero structure in this business? I can't deal with this, so we're going to do this. And so those are the things that people to help implement. And
with your career, that's a beautiful thing, is because you've had this very professional background, like it really highlighted a lot of blind spots to me, because I hadn't, I haven't ever worked at a large corporation waitressing and then working for my family's very small business where there was nothing really like that. And so I the business was at a lot of risk potentially from employees mostly. I think we might have had client guidelines, I feel, in the beginning. But other than that, very basic, but obviously those have like grown 7-fold since the beginning. So yeah, you definitely brought in a lot of like, what about this? What about this? And just really having a second set of eyes on things. And honestly, additionally, just having that kind of second body for backup, because it's not like you immediately went full time in the office. I mean, we're both cleaning.
I think I was cleaning a lot when we first started. And I do remember thinking like, well, I didn't want to clean all the time, but I mean, it's great, and then I kind of got to the point, because I think the first few weeks, yes, somebody left unexpectedly. They no-showed, and then we never heard from them. And so then that just kind of threw the next few weeks into a shit show. And so then we were both out cleaning and doing stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, how does Stephanie do this? Like, supposed to be answering messages while I'm cleaning and doing all of this. Like, this is chaotic. But then things started to settle down and actually become more even keel and worked out better. But it was crazy to start, that's for sure.
Yeah. And honestly, I really don't think there was any structure to you do this, I do this. Like, it was very much like we are tackling this like pot of work together. Like I'm trying to think if there was anything specifically. Did you do payroll right away, or like what were the first, like, these are your responsibilities?
I never really did payroll. I did payroll once, I think. And I was like, I absolutely hate this and I never want to do this again. And so I just really never have. No, I was
estimating, right? Estimate schedules, emails,
calls, and just all of the other things that go into it, emails, and just making sure employees were good, clients were good. That was really kind of where I was at. I think you were doing payroll all of that at that time. But I remember when I first started, remember those agendas that you used to put together for me for my day? And I never followed any of those. So I was like, Stephanie doesn't know.
No.
It needs to be done. That's
I
silly.
can't manage my own days, let alone somebody else's.
Yeah, it was so funny. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So, it's just really interesting to think that I describe it like the Wild West because that's what it felt like, though. Now that I do, so much consulting and see into what other businesses are like at the stage that we were quite structured in comparison. There's a lot of things, for example, like even just having a cleaning checklist or having ZenMaid, like those two things, like I feel were our almost the security blanket of what do we do here? Like, what is even going on right now? Like it's the truth, and I just can't imagine not having that. And so it's kind of crazy to reminisce. And so now let's go through as time evolved and your role evolving and when we actually started kind of getting it into a little bit this is shaping into your HR. I literally can't even remember when that happened.
Yeah, so that was it officially happened when I came back from maternity leave after having Zayden.
Wait. Let's talk about that. Okay. Because that was something where we kind of, I guess, successfully navigated that because we had, let's see, April was in the office, who is our payroll administrator, who we'll talk to on another episode. And then Katie was in the office too. Yep.
And I think, yes, Taylor was in the office as well, because we had brought her on in August of that year to kind of help facilitate me being gone during that time to have a little additional support. So yeah, they were all but everybody's hands were in everything. There was not a lot of structure as far as who did what or who's doing this today or you're doing invoicing, you're responding to emails. There was none of that. We were all just first come, first serve on emails. Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, you're doing that. That's kind of how it was. And then I remember over maternity leave, just I had so much time to think because what else am I doing other than laying here with a baby that can't talk or move or do anything other than eat and poop. So I had a lot of thinking time and I'm I just feel like there needs to be more structure in what everybody is doing because it's starting to feel a little chaotic or, somebody's working on this and then all of a sudden I find out, they already started this and okay, well that was a waste of time.
We'd be responding to clients multiple times because we'd all be in the inbox and then making ourselves look stupid. So
right. So yeah, I remember when I came back from maternity leave and just that first week or two and just talking with everybody else that was in the office and about how things were going and stuff and then I just remember saying I feel like we need to solidify our roles more and what do you guys see yourself as, this is what I see myself as and that's where we are today. Those roles have adjusted slightly but not too far off course of where they were at that point and that was I think one of the best things that we ever did for sure. So
really and leaning into everybody's strengths because despite you've never done HR before technically in any other role, but is there a reason that was why do you feel that you're drawn to that?
I feel that's kind of where, so me being the longest term employee in the office, I really felt up until that point when serious conversations need to happen with employees or, disciplinary actions needed to happen, that typically fell on me because people kind of saw me as more of the
bad cop
type of and so, it wasn't necessarily the other girls in the office that were doing it. It kind of just more came to me. And I have always been very willing to do that. Even though it's very uncomfortable sometimes. But I've never had an issue doing that. And I was I really feel I've kind of become the person who's managing the employees, whereas April's really great at payroll. She was doing it at that time. She loves doing that. So let's keep you there. Let's keep me where I'm at and figure out, the other roles and stuff. So I really never ever saw myself being an HR director. That was never in my tarot cards at all. But I think I do well at it. And surprisingly to myself, even, I think it just comes very naturally for me. And, with Google along the way to help me out.
Thanks, ChatGPT. But honestly, and I think like your ability to have difficult conversations and not being afraid of backlash, and really one of the strengths of you being able to withstand that discomfort. That is one of my weaknesses, and it has been for years, and something that I've had to really work on is the ability to have difficult conversations with either clients or employees, and being okay with them being potentially unhappy with me.
Right.
And I think one of the things that makes me a good like businesswoman is I want to make the customers happy and the employees happy. And I think that's what makes Serene Clean a really wonderful place. But when it's at the detriment of the right path, that's where it really goes awry for me, and where you kind of really come in and be like, no, like this is what is actually right. And though that this is difficult in the moment, it's what's going to be the best in the long run. And so I think that that's one of your biggest strengths, and just keeping that in mind, that this may be a tough conversation, or this may be something that sucks right now, but what's going to help in the long term. And honestly, like this, like Katie, all of you guys do it really well. I feel like now I almost feel like you've kind of helped us hone that ability and that skill, because every single manager meeting now, even this morning when we're talking about
no person.
Yeah, you're the nose person. I literally, Crystal pisses in my Cheerios. That's what she does.
All the time.
Like, I have to be
back down to reality here.
Yeah. I'm the dreamer. I am like everything's a rainbow, and like let's just go for it, guys. We'll figure it out later. And honestly,
what's the worst that could happen? Okay, well, let me list all of those things out. That's who I am. And it's so funny because I always when you were talking about the offsetting your qualities and stuff, it's so true. You're very much a yes person. You've always been a yes person, and I'm very much a hey, wait. Yep. If we say yes, this is going to trickle all of these things, and that's going to be a problem. So why would we say yes? Let's say no, or like, let's not jump into this huge change just because it was one of Stephanie's random Sunday night ideas that she had.
That's what happens is I'll come in because I just listen to podcasts or like a book or something over the weekend, and I'm like, just, okay, guys, like, listen to this idea. Like, oh my gosh, we need to do this. This is the most amazing thing ever, because I've just got this like idea and it hasn't worn off yet. Like the sparkle hasn't worn off. So it really helps bring me down to reality. And I mean, honestly, I think the problem is we've had some really crazy opportunities come our way that Stephanie said yes to, and we did figure it out. So I've kind of like been rewarded. Right? Like, well, that worked. What's the problem? Obviously we've kind of glazed over, before your maternity leave was in conjunction with the Fort McCoy project.
The worst timing ever, honestly. Like the worst timing ever. I mean, not that it was planned at all, but
no. And I'm trying to think like, so August of 2021, August of 2021, right? Yep. That's when we got the call for this. And I mean, I came to you guys and I was like, all right, like we're doing this, and Stephanie's going to be there 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. Like this, like what now? Like, do you remember that? Did you think I was batshit crazy? Like, what did you think? I didn't ever ask.
So I think to start, it wasn't so batshit crazy because it wasn't initially presented to us in what it turned into being. It wasn't as large scale as what it ended up being, and it very quickly turned into that way. And then I think we were kind of just, a week or two in when they were like, hey, this is going to turn into this much more. And we're like, oh shit. Well, good thing Stephanie's there all day, because that's the only way this is going to make it work. But I knew that we would be good in the office, and running the mainstream kind of part of the business that was so separate and so different. But I just remember interviewing for that, and all of the people, like our office was just filled. And I just remember like at the end of the interviews, like, all right, line up one by one into my office. Let me get your IDs. We're going to start this process. I mean, it was just madness. And so I'm sure there were thoughts at that time that were like, what the hell is she thinking? You know, but I didn't say no. So I must have agreed. I don't know.
I think because I presented it, I was like, this is majority going to be on me. You guys, literally the goal for Serene Clean, like the normal side of it was just don't let it break. Just keep it going, right? Like not to grow, just try to keep everything the same and manage everything the same. And then, with the thought of your maternity leave is going to come. And it really, I do think it helped really kick our butts when it came to like getting SOPs in place and really documenting everything for the ladies to be ready. And honestly, like, your maternity leave went really well. Like, I feel like they handled it super duper well. And then, McCoy ended in February and we did take some staff members in, but it was just, honestly, it was like shell shock for me afterwards. I did go into like a low grade depression after, because I was just like, it was like this hangover.
Right. Yeah. How do I even come back to real life after all of that?
It was, but it was such a relief for that to end. And so, that ended up being a $1 million project, and it really bolstered me to say like, holy shit, this thing is now to the point where I don't need to be in this every day. Like you guys really, really have managed this very well. And so, that really, I mean, just kind of jumping all over a little bit, but obviously I live in, Savannah now. I'm for over 2 years now. And for me, McCoy showed me that was possible. Right. I think that a lot of my hangups around being a remote owner have been just what you guys think of it. And even like, I know, honestly, even amongst our staff, that has been a difficult transition for some from Stephanie's not in the field every day. She's not the one interacting with me. So obviously my role has shifted literally from cleaning side by side to now so different. And I just feel like you've had always such a good perspective on it. And I never felt like I had to explain myself to you. Why do you think you've never had a problem? And even, we've had some experiences where some have been like, oh, Crystal, like you're taking advantage of, or even things like, like Stephanie puts all of this on you. Like, I've never felt, and I've even had those conversations. Like, do you feel that you're, how do you feel right now? Like, so I'd love to hear your perspective on all of that.
Yeah. So I guess, when you were at McCoy and then after that happened, before you even moved to Georgia, it was, you kind of took that step back from the everyday kind of thing, and it was more just like this overarching type of thing, but still, of course, being very much involved. And, I think all of us in the office, we were used to that. And I am a pretty confident person, I feel like, and I've always excelled in any role that I've ever been in. And I always put all of my effort into it. And so like, I knew I could do, whatever I needed to do. I think you kind of taking that step back from the everyday thing gave confidence to other people in the office that may not have had it so much, and just like not relying on you so much. But we had this time period after McCoy where you were still in the area, but not so much involved as you were prior to McCoy. And so by the time Georgia came around, it's like, okay, well, this is a big change, but also, is it really that big of a change for us in the office? It's really not. We're really doing the same things that we were. The biggest change is that when shit hits the fan, I can't say, Stephanie, you're cleaning tomorrow, So, that's really the biggest change that it was. But, I think with you leaving, I never felt like, oh my gosh, I have to do this now, or, oh, I have to do that, or, it was already really that way. And a lot of our staff didn't know that. They didn't realize that. And I think once we announced that you were moving, then they were like, wait, what the heck? Like, how can this happen? And it's like, well, we've been running this way for 8 months now, really. And you didn't even realize it because you're not in the office every day. And so I never felt like I was taken advantage of or anything like that. I was just always very confident and like, yeah, let's do this. Let's make this work, and I think it's really cool that you're able to do that and you have that opportunity. And, the reason that I put so much effort into everything I do is because this position and job gives me so many opportunities for myself. When I came back from maternity leave, Zayden came with me and he was in the office for a year and a half before I even sent him to any daycare at all. And so there's so many different things that this job has allowed me to do that I would never get to experience otherwise, or likely would not be able to. And it's just, I'm so thankful for everything and all of the flexibility that I have, and although times are crazy sometimes and it's very stressful, I never, ever once have been like, oh, is this it for me? It's like, no, like, this is crazy right now, but I would never ever change. Like, this craziness is all worth it to me. And I think it will always be that way, because there's just so many opportunities and so many benefits to working here, and being, in the position that I am. I think it's wonderful. But yeah, I've never really questioned that like some other people have, but I understand their viewpoint because they weren't as familiar with what we were doing at that time. But once we educated them, I think it helped a little bit, clear up some air a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you just described what's about to be asked is not to blow smoke up my ass. It's to educate our listeners the types of things that you would describe as irreplaceable that you would find very difficult to find in any other workplace. So this is not to feed Stephanie's ego. This is like the facts of the matter of what about Serene Clean makes you make that statement. Why is somebody who is so clearly intelligent, capable, competent, could probably, like you said, excel in any role? Why do you stay here? Like, why?
Yeah,
from a startup,
So I feel like I have really helped shape the company into what it is. And I love that we've said it a million times before. And I used to say it all the time when I did orientation to every new staff is like, we have looked at the things. What did we hate about our prior employers? What drove us crazy? What didn't we like? Well, guess what? We get to make those changes. Something happens and I don't like how that goes. I can bring it to you guys and be like, hey, this is a problem. Don't like this. Like, let's chat about it and see what we can do about it. And we're so constantly evolving. I love that. I love that this is never going to be a place that I dread coming to work because we're in control of the situation for the most part. I mean, obviously we can't control our employees and our clients, but the policies, the procedures, the expectations, all of that, it feels great to be like in charge and have direction and be able to make other employees not hate their jobs because we're changing things for the better and offering them so many great benefits. But of course, flexibility. Like, I absolutely love the flexibility that I have here. I have a very crazy schedule in just my personal life and work life, but it meshes well together. And being able to run to the dentist at 9 o'clock this morning because I had to go get something fixed quick, and it's okay. And I don't, for me, I can just come and go kind of as I need to. And I love that, I love having that flexibility, but also just, I feel this is going to kind of like toot my own horn, but I feel important here. Yeah. And I love that. Important. It's not just like other people being like, because there's not people who are constantly like, oh my God, Crystal, whatever. But I genuinely feel like my work matters and it makes a difference in so many people's lives. And I love that feeling. And I just can't imagine like going to a regular job, I think would be the demise of my entire existence because I could not bring my dogs there. I could not bring my kids there. I can't come and go as I please. I can't sit here in slippers like I like to, there's so many different things that go into why, I continue to stay or why I wouldn't leave or, whatever it is. There's so many different factors, but I guess those ones are the big ones. So.
Yeah. And even like what you just said, like coming and going as you please, like, I guess that encompasses Stephanie's management style of the managers, meaning there is none. And I mean, for better, for worse, maybe for worse sometimes, but like, would you agree? Like, I just don't have to manage you guys at all. Right. Like, honestly, yeah. I've never given you an ounce of negative feedback, maybe because you're perfect, but like that could be it. Yeah. But it's, and again, maybe my there's just nothing that comes to mind. And it's not even like even if we make mistakes as a management team, it's never like a chastising. It's like, oh shit, we messed this up. Like, how do we not do that again? You know, but honestly, I don't even have sit downs with you guys. Every other employee has, you do the competency reviews and you do their kind of performance reviews every like obviously you do HR things but I pretty much we all just kind of agreed like if there's a problem we're just going to tackle it head on. But I feel that it's so easy to get burned with managers. And I think a lot of listeners probably, they maybe have a cleaner that goes into a manager role and then they get horrifically burned. And we've gotten burned, in choices before in that area. And so like, it's not like I'm necessarily suggesting this kind of hands-off approach. So I don't know how scalable or like how I can apply this for other people. Right. It's just like, you guys are just so, I guess I'm just going to like kiss your guys' ass this whole conversation because it's like, you don't need to be managed. And I think because I've shown you that level, like, I just trust you guys. I trust that your core values and integrity match me. And you guys so understand the mission of what we're trying to do here. Like, I guess overarchingly, that's how I would describe you is you understand what the hell is like what road we're on and what we're doing. And you just understand the importance of it. And I don't know if that's just I don't know if that was from me or from you guys or like, where do you think that came from of like, you guys just know?
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't think there's one particular thing. I think you got very lucky with the people you have, in the office, in the management team. I think we're all so similar and we all get along so well. And there's so much trust between all of us and we're so loyal. And we all truly just believe in this company, what we're doing, helping people every day, and just continually growing. And I think it was again, just a perfect alignment of all of the stars that came together to make this happen. And you've never questioned us or what we're doing. And I think that helps us be independent and make our own judgment calls and helps us really figure out, okay, well, I have zero schedule, really, there's no
get your work done. That's all I care about. Like I
don't at all. I do things when I want to do them as I need to do them. But you can count on me that it's going to get done. There's never been ever a question of, or the other managers of, if I don't tell them this isn't going to get, no, we just get shit done. We just do it, and we're all we all have wonderful work ethic, where a lot of people in this world, I just don't think they do. But it's just, I think you just got blessed with a wonderful team.
I did. And honestly, I know that's like not something that somebody who's gotten like the shit end of the stick wants to hear, but there are incredible people that will start with you as a part-time cleaner because I have many of them. And so you just don't know what kind of skills they have until you see them work sometimes. And that means you're going to have to get burned 1,000 times. And we have had 1,000 duds. Have we not, Crystal? Actually, technically several hundred. Several hundred.
Literally so many though. So many. Yes.
Yeah. And
we like to take a chance on people. Oh, you're, a little rough around the edges. Why not? Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes it really bites us in the ass, but we figure it out and we just keep going. So
yeah. And just knowing that that's the name of the game, that is the business we're in, is managing people. All right. Cleaning is just what the happen to be tasks that we take care of. And really we're helping people and we're providing a great workspace. And honestly, I would say that that's really morphed into our biggest focus is like, how can we be the best workplace possible? And, that's been the benefits that we've added. That's been, higher wages and things like that. And even for you guys, like my goal is that you never have to ask me for a raise. I don't think you ever have you?
Never.
I don't think so.
Never once. No, I have never asked for a raise.
So she's been at $12 an hour for 6 years. Just kidding.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Right. Then I would be taking advantage of you. But the point being is like, I have shown you guys with my actions that I will reward you. I will reward that loyalty. I will preemptively strike and say, I see what you're doing here, and you guys see all of the numbers. You see it's every single one of you has complete access to all of the finances of the business. And so honestly, I think that that's great because then you see the decisions I'm making and you see where the actual money is going. And that, we do a lot of things with the finances of the business that are very counterproductive to profit. You know what I mean? Like that's
very much all the time.
Like this doesn't make any sense because that's not the goal. Is for the business to survive and really make everybody as much money as possible, and also give as much as possible, be the best possible workplace ever. And those like final things are really kind of above for me than making like as much profit as possible. Right. That's like never really been the goal. It's more so make as much as we can so that we can do what we want with the money. That's kind of been, my thought process. And I think that you guys seeing that and now for 6 years, seeing that evidence has been, I would hope reassuring to you guys that it's like, I'm going to take care of you. Like I will take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. There's never been a point where I've been like, oh, well, I feel like, and because if I felt like, hey, I haven't gotten a raise in this long and I need a raise, or I feel like I deserve this raise, like I would say something because I feel like that's who I am. I speak up, and that's, kind of where I came into this role is because I speak up and I'm willing to say the hard things that some other people aren't necessarily willing to say. But I've never once ever felt like I needed to, because you have always absolutely shown your appreciation by making sure that I was taken care of. And as all of the other employees and managers as well, as you make sure that we have what we need and we're supported in any way that we need, whether that be emotionally, financially, whatever it is. So.
Yeah. And even just touching on the emotional side of it, of like, you guys have seen me gone through my hardest years of my life in different things, and you got like the whole, don't become friends with your staff. Like, I just cannot, like, you guys are my closest friends, literally. Right. Yeah, and I know that I don't know how you couldn't be friends with your coworkers when you've, gone through everything that we've gone through and seen each other go through such life challenges. And we all really lean on each other and are very transparent when one of us is going through a hard time. And it just allows us to support each other. Like the management team, this is so corny, but it's like, it's a team. Like we just kind of have each other's backs. Like, oh, you're struggling right now with XYZ, or the kids are sick, or you're sick, or whatever. 'Cause you guys all have kids. And basically I see it like you all as mothers to me, almost like I am your child. And
you are one of the children.
I know.
The child that causes the most trouble.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, it's interesting because you'd think us saying that right there, you'd be like, oh, then how can you guys respect me? But it's like, you guys know me very authentically of, I am this spazzy, goofy creature, but also like, clearly I know
businesswoman.
Yeah. It's just who I am. And so, sometimes, I've thought about that too, of like, oh, am I being not how how a leader should be or whatever, but it's like turning it on when it's necessary or, you know, really, again, where my strengths lies, that's where you guys come in and kind of like balance those out in a variety of ways. So yeah, it is such a team. And, you know, now I guess we can talk about your actual job now. Like, what do you do?
I don't even know what I do. Most days I'm like, what have I done all day? I've been busy all day, but I don't know. Like, it is chaotic. It is. And I was actually just saying this morning to Katie and Hannah, I'm like, I was thinking for whatever reason, like if one of us died, like thinking about having to replace one of us is like nearly impossible, because how do you train and teach what we have and just everything that we do? And because our schedules are so chaotic when we're here at work, because there's so many different factors that play into what we're doing at any given moment. I mean, I could be so invested into one specific project, an employee sends a single message that could change my next 2 weeks of work. And so I can't really, especially in my role, I think I can't really have a set schedule because it's all variable. But yeah, I mean, managing the employees, performance evaluations, like following up with all of the quality checks. What else do I do?
Well, hiring, really, you are 100 your biggest responsibility.
People.
Yeah, hiring people and firing people and managing onboarding and offboarding of employees and just like all of the communication. Like, you are really the kind of, you know, even, and there's certain things where it's like, okay, a complaint comes in from the customer, that may be Katie handling it, who is customer relations, hands the baton off to you to deal with the employee side of it. So like collaborating with each of yours departments, if you will, and really like tackling it from all angles. But I mean, yeah, honestly, like the amount of work that you have to do just to keep us staffed, frankly, it's a lot of work.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's insane how many interviews are scheduled. And I mean, most people don't show up because this workforce is crazy. But yeah, the amount of interviews and just even let alone the communication for scheduling interviews and talking with all of the applicants. I mean, that some days is just an astounding amount of work. And, you know, people kind of show their true colors just in that. And I'm like, oh no, red flags. It's like easier for me. I can point out red flags a lot better than I used to do 6 years ago.
Well, I remember because, you know, we started group interviewing in probably 2021, actually, I think. And it was and that was all in person, and we do it like one day a week. And that really changed the game for us because then we weren't wasting time, you know, with people who show up. But that has evolved over time. And I mean, honestly, I think group interviewing is the only reason, the one of the many reasons, but a key reason that we were able to grow and sustain our growth is because instead of waiting to hire or waiting to post jobs until somebody quit, we always just had job listings going. We've always had this like list of applicants, and even, you know, okay, we've lost 2 full-timers in the past 2 weeks, right? One quit, one got fired, and we've already got their replacements for the most part, you know, not ideal necessarily from a location perspective since we have the 3 locations, but you have this system, right? Like you just like, I'd love to, because people are probably like, well, how do you do that? Would you mind describing briefly like how you handle the system of here?
Yeah, so I actually just changed how I was doing that when we swapped from using Facebook Messenger to utilizing Slack. I really overhauled all of my reminders, my trackers, and how I kept track of information. But what I ended up doing, so previously I was using an Excel spreadsheet, and I would just put the date of the interview, their name, and then what position they had applied for. And then I would put all of the details in there. What are they looking for? You know, my comments on them and how the interview went and whether or not I thought that they'd be a good fit with us. And then what I'm doing now is I actually do it all in Zoom. So Zoom has kind of like a list or a Canvas section, kind of like Slack does. It's called Docs, though. So I have a doc set up within Zoom that just has the same exact thing. It's listed out by date and the interview time and their name, their information, and all of my comments. I do record and have AI do the summary of all of the interviews, which is really helpful because when you do so many interviews, it's very difficult to remember people unless they like stand out for a really big reason. So that's great to be able to look at all of that information. But my very last column on there is like just a select 3 options: hard no, possible on the fence, yes, love. And that is what I primarily use. And I really I hire off of vibes, honestly. Like, I don't care about your work history. I don't care what you
resume doesn't matter. Like,
matter to me, because so many of our employees have never had any history in cleaning or anything like that. It's so irrelevant. And just like personality is really where I come from. And so I make my comments on that. And that's kind of how I keep things straight. So, but I put in there, what's their availability. And so when we just had these 2 recent people who left, I look, okay, is there anybody who fits what we need in the area that we need? And it's very easy to keep it all straight when you have it all written down. So it's really, really organized.
Yes, very much so. And you have typically 6 job listings going and different, like across the
pretty much. So Indeed's kind of cracked down on how many you can have in one location. So they kind of ruin things for me a little bit. But yes, I try to have as many as possible. I think right now there's 5 out there, but yeah, that's pretty typical, is that many. So
yeah, just so we can consistently keep getting applicants coming in, because really it's just having as many applicants as possible so that we have more options, basically, because you just don't know. And that's always going to be our limiting factor for growth is turnover, is getting people in. And now that we've had a more extensive training timeline, but that has helped us in a lot of ways. I would say that was one of the biggest kind of changes in Serene Clean that really has changed our business. I would say, gosh, what was it, about a year ago we started working on like revamping the training program.
Yeah, I think so. And I would agree too. That's definitely up there. One of the top things for me and positives that we have changed and evolved in is the training process overall. I mean, even just orientation, like up until we started working on it a year ago, but orientation was probably live last summer, maybe. Up until then, all of the new hires came and met with me for an hour and a half. We talked about things, and then we kind of sent them on their way into the field, training with other people. And, whereas now, I mean, they're scheduled for a full day, and it's a legit presentation and goes over so much information about all of the history and what we do and why we do the things that we do. And that alone is just so instrumental and such a positive change. And definitely one of my favorites too. And then, the field development and quality assurance specialist, Hannah, bringing her on and then having those, that controlled week of training is just outstanding. And I think we are still in the process of seeing the positives of it. And I don't think we've seen all of the positives that it can do because it is so new and so fresh. And unfortunately, some of the people we've hired recently have not worked out for various reasons, completely outside of our control. But I'm excited to see how that continues to evolve even further, because that was a great one for sure.
Oh, for sure. And the reason it was such a pain, or like why we felt that was going to be, I remember Katie, saying, I believe, like, or maybe we've all said this in some flavor of, if we were to add, or if we were at 50 employees, what would make this thing collapse? And it was 100% consistency. Despite us having some really good foundations, meaning we followed checklists and things like that, it was just the inconsistency in a million areas. Like how different things were handled at homes, even like how communication is handled, what the expectations are, how commercial accounts are handled. Like literally, I mean, like, yeah, it was like a death by 1,000 cuts. That's what it felt like every time we had a growth spurt and added several employees. It was like, holy fuck, why does everything feel like it's going crazy right now? Why can't they get this? And
we're doing so good, but then it all falls apart.
It was the lack of really in-depth training from a where does it fall apart? What don't they understand? And it's not their fault. It's our fault because we haven't trained them on these things. And even to the point now in our control homes, which are your guys' houses as the managers, literally planting and like we thought about every scenario that they may run into in the field that's weird. Because the thing is that I think we really realize it's not about the cleaning, it's all the weird shit that happens at houses. And it happens often enough that every single cleaner is going to run into all of them at some point. Right. And so it was just like, what is it? What are all the crazy things that have happened? Well, let's build it into the house. There's fake dog poop at your house. There is fake blood. There is money on the counter that is not labeled as a tip. There's a broken, picture frame in April's house. Like, how do we handle that? Like, we lock them out at April's house. Like, all of these things that we're like, we can't scale and really push growth because it's so painful every time we try, because it's like, the communication it was nonstop. It was like babysitting. Almost.
It always felt like we'd take one step forward and then we're taking 3 steps back. Like anytime we were trying to grow or do good things, and then we're like, okay, let's just stop. Let's rethink everything. And I think, the last year and a half, we've really done that in all aspects of the business. And we're continuing to do so, just to really hardwire everything to have a specific structured process, and that just hopefully leads to better outcomes overall. So yeah.
And I think really all of us, like last year, saying it's okay if this doesn't grow, that was very hard for me, and super hard for me, I think, because that's very scary to me of okay, if that's not keep going up, like everything's gonna fall apart, because this is the first time I've done this. And so it was just this startup mode of go, and push, because we had grown so fast. I mean, I just saw from, let's see, I just ran the numbers for something because somebody had asked me in March of 2020, we were at 15,000 a month. And that's right when you would have, let's see, just before you came on full time, right?
I came full time in August of 2020.
Yes, August 2020. So I happened to look at March, and that, because I think it was right before COVID hit. So I was curious. So March of 2020, we were at 15,785. 1 year later, March of 2021, we were at 56,000 a month, and so that's like 350% growth or whatever the math is in 1 year. And obviously a lot of that was attributed to you. A lot of it was like systemizing and stuff. And then that kept happening until we're where we are now. And so it's like, holy shit, this thing really just, I always describe it as a whirlwind, or like, oh my God, like I don't even realize it, it was just nuts.
and I don't know, sometimes it's like, how did you get through? I don't know.
We just did.
Locked out. Here I am. I don't know.
That's what it feels like.
We just did. I don't know. We did our best every day.
And honestly, what I think one key that I kind of glazed over before, but I want to highlight right now, is what you just described of, these are the things that I've changed, and I put it in the Slack, and now Zoom is like this, and this is my system. First time I'm hearing this, but that's the point. Every single one of you guys is just as obsessed with systematizing and honing your process as I am. Meaning each of you in your department, you make your process better. You make it more efficient to the point of making it the best it can be. And you're doing that completely independent of me. Because you guys all understand it. It's so important. Like if we can't do this thing at 50 employees or 100, we shouldn't do it this way. And that's
Right.
not, you can't think like that in the first year. But now that we're more like, okay, we're getting into this like established, we're 6 years in, like we're now an established business. We're thinking much more in terms of like longevity and is this going to keep working for us, you know? And, so I think that, like you said, really focusing on the training process, introducing the orientation, it seems like it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I think it really gives a good taste to new staff members that first day of like, it also, it really shows our prowess of, wow, like this took a lot of work to put all of this together. This is a legit business, you know, and I think it shows them kind of who we are. You know, thinking about our hiring mistakes, which we've made many, like, are you alive? Do you have a pulse?
Can you breathe? Can you walk?
Even that one's iffy, honestly.
Yeah, debatable. And not after cleaning, I can't.
yeah, right. And I think looking back, the mistake we kept making, and I will 100% take responsibility for this, is the desperation of we have so much work. Somebody just quit. We're all frantic.
Right.
Anybody. Hire the next person that walks through the door. I don't care if it's a UPS driver. Get him in there. Brian, is that you, Brian? Come on.
Brian, we miss you, Brian.
Yeah, he could work for us. No, Brian could totally work for us.
Oh my God. No way he could work for us.
He's not going to
Poor man.
Love you, Brian. But point being is that we just kept making this mistake over and over of, we know our gut is screaming, wrong person, don't do this. But the desperation was so strong that we're like, maybe it'll work out. And I'm not saying that we haven't had ones like you said of like, oh, they've surprised us or they really grew into the role or did a great job or whatever. But I think we just kept being okay or having that be so much more important to us than thinking longevity of like, do they actually fit with us, you know?
Yeah.
And
right. And I think we became a lot more okay with, hey, if we have, as much as we don't like it. So in this point where we're at even right now, where we don't have these two people, you know, we have to clean a little bit, you know, I cleaned last week, I'm cleaning the next 3 nights, you know, to make things work. But sometimes when we're so desperate, it's like, okay, hire this person, then we don't have to worry about that part. But what that does is kick us in the ass because now it's a domino effect of all the things that they're fucking up and the clients are unhappy and now we have to send somebody else back. And it's almost like we're double doing everything when we hire people out of desperation because they don't work out. Whereas now we're so much more comfortable with saying, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry. We can't complete your cleaning services this week. We're doing the best that we can. And, you know, sometimes just being transparent with clients and other employees, like, yeah, I know your schedule sucks today. You have to drive an hour for a 2-hour cleaning. I know that sucks, but we just need to get by right now. And just being okay with saying, hey, we can't make you happy in this moment, but give us a hot second. And we'll come back and you know, wow you or whatever, because now we have the right person in the role. And just being willing to not hire out of desperation, because it's never worked out for us.
We have 100% failure rate, pretty much. Honestly, now that I think about it, because what you just described of we'd hire them, it fix that immediate, like we'd Band-Aid it, right? Yeah. But then we're a month in. Now they have a full schedule of our regular clients who have been with us and trusted us for years. And now we are making our most loyal clients unhappy. They're calling in all the time. Their coworkers are getting pissed because they are, you know, just shitty people or just not right for cleaning. And it's like, okay, now we're having to fix we Band-Aided it, and now this horrible wound is gaping and infected. And
you need to go to wound care, and you need dialysis, and you need constant treatment. Whereas before it wasn't like that, but we created this problem. Yes.
That's really what I think. I hope people are like getting and taking away from this, of when you do that, all you're doing is causing 7-fold headaches in a month or two, because now you load them up, they ghost you, or you have to fire them because they suck. And now you have a full-time schedule that you, instead of a wait list.
Right.
That now, like, you're disappointing. You're going to disappoint people either way. So why wouldn't you just, why wouldn't you just say, hey, we're worth the wait. We will, we're worth the wait. We waitlist people now. And so it's just like, if we've had to come to terms with that, because our limiting factor is always going to be staffing. And, I think looking at our core group, we have a really great core group of people who have been meaning cleaning techs who have been with us for 3, 4, 5 years. Ashley C. Camp will be 6 years too in this year, right? So it's, and looking at Hannah, she's been with us for 3 years. So I guess looking at, Ashley V, I'm just like, we have Brittany. I mean,
there's so many. Jamie, there's so many.
There's so many.
Which is so crazy, because all of those people also were very similar times where things were kind of ran like a shit show. So, like, what did we do good at that point? Why did they stick around? So,
I think honestly, though, this is going to sound pretentious, but I got to say it anyway. I think they could sense the authenticity of what we were trying to do, and that they felt respected and heard, and saw like, oh, if I say something and I don't like how something is happening, and I say it to them, they make a change, and they make it immediately. Like they fix the problem. And just really for us, that's kind of working in integrity. And obviously one of the core values for us is integrity. And I know it just sounds so frou-frou, but I feel like we really embody our core values in the business. And we've been able to kind of point to that. And my biggest flex is how many people say, like, this is the best place I've ever worked. And so the more people you get like that kind of tag along on the journey, and then a newbie comes on and they see all these people that are like, this place is great. Like, it kind of, it sells it for us. And so, I think that they were all treated poorly. They all came from healthcare, or I think like some type of healthcare.
The majority of our staff for sure came from healthcare, and that was not that specifically, but thinking about, our culture. I think that is really what has to do so much with, why so many people stay here. It's something I say during my interviews is like, do people like wake up one day and they're like, oh, I want to be a cleaning technician for the rest of my life? No, nobody does that, but they love feeling cared for. They love being taken care of, and, in their role and in their employment, and feeling supported. And those are things that we do. And there's so many times, it's kind of funny because my fiance is always like, you guys are crazy. You're way too nice. Like, you guys get shit on all the time. Like, why is this person talking to you about this? Like, why are they reaching out to you? It's like, well, because that's who we are. That's the kind of company that we have. And I just love that is the atmosphere that we have. But that is truly like the culture, the caring, and truly we are like a family. I know so many places say that, but genuinely, like, there is not one person on this team that I wouldn't be like, yeah, that's an awesome person. I really respect and love that person, because that's how we all are. And if somebody doesn't fit in that, then clearly they're not meant to be here. Well, so
and like our culture really should like push people, like even like Dustin, Derek says the same thing. He's like, I can't believe they can, like, are they in a fantasy land? This isn't how real workplaces are like you can't get away with this. And so that would make it sound like we're really permissive. I don't think we are. It's more so that we are so aware of the fact that the type of staff that are going to make great cleaning techs are most likely primary care parents. They most likely have a lot on their plate, and a traditional kind of job is not necessarily going to work for them. And also they have been mistreated and or unappreciated in their former workplaces. Yeah. And so for them to come here and being told in front of all of their coworkers and publicly, you are a great person. You do great work. And I'm going to tell you that every single week, because that's what we do. We just shower them. We love bomb them so they don't want to leave us.
Literally. And even when you're giving, like, when I have to give like constructive criticism or have the hard conversations, like doing it in such a way, like in what do they call it? That little sandwich.
Oh yeah.
Whatever that is. You know, like, but always trying to do that. Like, hey, you know what? We all make mistakes. Like, that's okay. But how do you learn and how do you react from that? But also, like, from our standpoint, like, how are we presenting that feedback? How are we giving it to them? We're not just telling them, hey, you're a piece of shit, you did this wrong. Like, no, like, sometimes do I want to do that? Absolutely. Because this is the third time I've had to tell you this. So why am I still having to tell you this? But I'm not. I'm going to add a smiley face and say thank you for everything that you do, because no matter what, at the end of the day, every single person on our team is so instrumental to the success of the company overall. And so every single person matters. And I never want anybody to feel like they are just another person, like they're not cared for or anything like that. I could be on the verge of, 2 weeks ago, I was on the verge of firing somebody, and I had a heart-to-heart with her, and I actually cried during it, like 3 days before it, you know, because it's like, all right, I might personally feel some type of way about this, but I'm going to give you my all, because that is what you need, what I want to do, and just support every person, you know, and everything that they have. But that's why, you know, we have such a great workplaces, because we're very supportive and very empathetic. So,
and just highlighting of, you know, it's so important to me that everybody understands that, you know, they are special, and that we make what we do is so rare, and just highlight. And I think when you uphold people to a high standard, which we do, we have an incredibly high quality standard, and probably a lot of companies, it would be like, nobody's going to notice that. Like, it's good enough. And that's just never really flown for us. And it's very much been we say that, like, we have super high standards when it comes to the quality of work, but we tie that to, why is that so important? And you as employees should want that. You should want us to have high standards, because one, we can charge high prices because the proof is in the pudding, which allows us to pay you guys well, give you benefits, give you all those bonuses, and just do all of, you know, donate in the community, have free cleaning programs, like all of the cool shit that makes this place so cool. That all is based on a quality service that nobody can compete with. Because if we can't do that, we can't do all of these other things. Right. But then tying it to the pride in work, I think it's like, you want to have something that you can be proud of, and you can't be proud of mediocre work. And so really tying that to, like, hey, you know, when we're on a couple week streak of 0 complaints, right? Hundreds of appointments a week, like highlighting that every single week in our team meeting, we've got 0 complaints, guys. We share all the positive feedback.
Thanks.
Yep. And it's just
good. You got some wood around you? We don't talk like that, Stephanie. We don't publicly announce it like that. We just say, great job, everybody. You're doing really well. No complaints this week.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We tell them, and then in private we talk about, you know, any bad things. But I think that just highlighting that, having pride in your work, and really intrinsic value, and doing a good job, they really feel that. And I think we make them feel good about themselves, not because we're permissive, but because we see them, we understand them, and that then when it's not about, like you said, like, oh, you're a shitty person or you do a bad job. It's like, hey, we've all gotten complaints. I know anytime somebody's having a hard time with a complaint, we've had cleaners have meltdowns and cry because they got a complaint. And your response is always like, look, I've gotten complaints. Every single one of us has gotten a complaint. Yeah, me too. I've only got one too. So, and it was bullshit. Jeff Fowler, there was not sand. It wasn't me. So hypothetically, we've all gotten complaints, even if they're bullshit. But the point being is we share that to have that empathy. And then we say, the point being is we all have things that we can work on and improve on, and how we accept this criticism and learn from it is really what we need to focus on, because us having a meltdown right now is not a growth mindset, right? And honestly, not being able to take constructive criticism is one of the biggest red flags for us, that this person isn't going to work out, especially early on, I would say. Like for us, it's like, oh my gosh, because then we've seen it. We start to all not want to give that constructive feedback because we don't want to deal with their emotional response.
Oh yeah, because it's so much. It's such an emotional suck from the management team when you're having to almost coddle somebody because they are going to react in some way or whatever, and trying to be the nicest you can about it regardless. But yeah, definitely taking feedback and the way somebody takes feedback is a very telltale sign for sure, but everybody makes mistakes, and you just always got to keep trying to do better. So we all have
off days, and we'll even tell them, it's like, if you're having such a shitty day in your personal life that you don't feel like you don't feel like you can get the job done to the level, we want you to call in instead of doing a bad job. Like we literally tell them that. And anytime that has been the excuse of, I was having a really hard time and this is why I was missing this. It's like, we said, we'll take a mental health day, because we'd rather you do that than the client getting a crappy experience, because that's not the client's problem. I am empathetic for you as your manager, but what the client deserves is not that. And so it's tough to balance both, because like sometimes the client's needs and the employee's needs are like jarring,
Yes, for sure. Very difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'll wrap it up because this is going to go on forever. I could talk to you obviously for hours. But yeah, overarchingly, I mean, I think that you have been I can't you are like Serene Clean. I can't imagine it without you. It couldn't be what it is today without getting you so early on. It's just crazy to me. I mean, it feels very meant to be. And I think a lot of times, I mean, it is a choice how we see things, but I know for us, it seems like things always work out. In Serene Clean, everything always works out. And every time something, we say that a million times, because it's like,
so many times.
Yeah. And how many times has something bad happened in the moment? And then looking back, it's like, oh, thank goodness that happened. Thank goodness that account dropped. Thank goodness that employee quit. Thank goodness we didn't get that account that we bid. And it's just like, it just always works. I think we all kind of had that mentality. So, but yeah, well, hopefully this was interesting to our listeners. I think it will be. And any parting thoughts, Crystal? You can tell me how amazing I am. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, obviously you're just like the best person ever. Duh. But no, I don't know. Like, I love this company. Hopefully something we said was helpful to the viewers, and I don't know. That's all.
That's what I got too. So anybody, if you guys have any questions about anything that we've mentioned, I know we touched on a lot of stuff. If you ever wanted to like hear more in depth, maybe like the hiring process and how that has evolved, anything specific on that. I know a lot of people have questions. That may be a good let's just talk about this only. So if that would be interesting to you guys, leave that in the comments below, and I will have Crystal on and we'll talk just about hiring specifically and go more in depth on that and how we manage it. But yeah, otherwise hit that like, guys, hit that subscribe. I will be interviewing every single one of my management team and some of my cleaning techs, which I think will be really interesting to you guys, because like I said, a lot of them have been with me for a long time and they've seen it go from absolute nut house shit show to slightly more organized nut house shit show. And here we are. So thank you, Crystal. And thank you everybody for watching. I will see you on the next episode of Filthy Rich Cleaners. Bye-bye.